Okay. So good morning, everyone. Today, this is our first lecture, and we are taking botany today. Okay. In botany, first chapter is like the living world. Okay. So we will be discussing living world today. Okay. So in this chapter, we are going to understand what is living and how we can define living. Okay. What are the pure characteristics of living organism that we are going to deal today. Okay, so as you people know, living are having many characteristics, right? So among that all characteristics, which characteristics are very important for living organisms that we are going to discuss, and that is all mentioned in the NCERT. Okay, now, so the very basic characteristics when we take into considerations are growth, reproduction, then metabolism, then response to stimuli, as well as last one is what people, level of organization, level of organization. So basically these are the characteristics of living organism. And as you people might have studied this, you know that all characteristics are not whole and total characteristics. Among this, the very important is metabolism. It is an ultimate characteristic. That means there is no exception for metabolism. As you people know, that non-living things will not perform metabolism. Only and only living organism perform metabolism. That's why it is an exclusive only property of living organism. Same way, response to stimuli is also shown only by living organism, right? That is why it is also an exclusive property, whereas level of organization is also an only property. Whereas growth and reproduction are having some exception, which we will learn in much more detail now. Chalo. So we will start with each characteristic in much more detail. Okay, na? Okay. Okay. So first one is growth. So as we know, what is growth? Growth is increase in mass of a cell and increase in number of a cell. Increase in number of a cell. That is called as growth. That means, suppose this is a cell, this cell will increase in size as well as it also increases in number. And this is called as growth. Okay. So basically, if we are talking about a single cell organism, right? Single cell organism. So we will understand here growth is also responsible for their increase in number. Okay. Growth is also responsible for increase in number. And if we talk about multicellular organism, growth is responsible for the increase in size of an organism, right? And we can also find out that growth is simultaneous to reproduction. In whom? In unicellular organism, single cell organism. That means when they will grow, at that same time they are also reproducing simultaneous. So suppose if I am taking this as an example of single cell organism, suppose this is a bacteria, है ना? So it is increasing in number, increasing in size, and this also we can call it as a reproduction. So we can say in a single cell organism, growth is similar to the reproduction. Okay. And in multicellular organism, for reproduction purpose, we perform different types of divisions, right? So that is a different thing. Okay, so there growth plays one important role, but here growth is similar to reproduction. Understood? Now you see, growth is not whole total characteristic of a living organism. Why so? Why we are saying? Now, as we are saying, the main definition of growth is increase in size, right? Increase in size. Now, in nature, we will find out that there are many things, okay? There are many things which will grow in size. So, as you people know, increase in body mass, you know? So, as you people know, mountains, then boulders, then sand mounds, sand mounds. These all things will grow with respect to time, correct? Na? In the nature. But are they living? No. Right? They are not living, but still they are growing. That's why we cannot say growth is an whole and total exclusive property, the only property of living organism. Because growth can be shown by non-living things also, like this all. Okay. Now, in this, you will find out one pattern. Growth is external. That is also called as extrinsic growth. Means mountains are growing in size, but they are growing externally. Okay. So this growth is extrinsic, but whereas cell, it is growing from inside. And that's how we can see the output. So in living organism, we can say we find out intrinsic growth. Yes. In non-living things, we find out extrinsic growth. Okay. So what we learned in the growth is what? Growth is increase in mass and increase in number of an individual. Okay. So a multicellular organism does what? Grows by cell division. Correct? Multicellular organism will grow by cell division. Cell division will happen and they will increase their number. Okay. This growth by cell division occurs continuously throughout their lifetime. Correct? No? Now we will find out in this also there are two patterns. If we take example of plants does growth by cell division continuously till they die. Till they die. है ना? They grow till they die. That means this is indefinite growth. है ना? They are having indefinite growth. But when we talk about animals, animals are having division power only till certain age, right? So that will be called as definite growth. Definite growth and indefinite growth. What I told you, in plants, this growth by cell division occurs continuously throughout their lifespan. We called it as an indefinite growth. Whereas in animals, this growth is seen only up to certain age. Okay, so that is the thing. However, cell division occurs in certain tissues to easily observe this in vitro culture. Okay, so this whole thing we can study in vitro also. What do you mean by in vitro? In vitro means in the laboratory condition, outside the body. In vivo means inside the body. Okay, so we can observe all this phenomenon of growth or cell division in vitro also. Okay, by taking the cells outside the body and allowing them to grow, allowing them to divide. That's how we can see this phenomenon of growth or cell division in vitro under the microscope. Okay, and I also told you in majority of higher animals and plants, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive event. Mutually exclusive event means both are similar, like both will be saying only one thing. That means when growth is happening simultaneously, we can say it is nothing but the reproduction. Example I gave you, single cell organism also, right? Hmm? Like one bacteria, it is doing cell division as well as it is also reproducing. That's why in some lower organism, in some higher organism also we can see this phenomenon where growth and reproduction will be mutually exclusive. Okay, so that's all about the growth. Now the question comes, what is the exception for growth? growth Growth का exception is mountains, then boulders, mounting sands, okay, on the land. So these are all the exception of what? Growth. Now second point we will discuss is reproduction. Last 10 minutes I will take doubt session, okay, in this chapter only. So I hope everybody is able to understand. Okay, so reproduction. In reproduction, as you people know, reproduction is what? Reproduction is nothing but there are two types in the reproduction, right? Based upon the involvement of the parents. Okay, if it is a single parent giving rise to next generation, that is asexual reproduction. If it is two parents involved in the reproduction, that is called as sexual reproduction. So asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, we learned that there are only one parent is involved. Okay, only one parent is involved. And here there are two parents are involved. Okay. Here we can say that progeny is exactly similar to the parent. Exactly similar to parent. And here the progeny will be having certain variation. As you people know why these variations will come? These variations will come due to type of division which is playing the important role. So you people know that cell division is of two types. One is mitosis, one is meiosis. So during mitosis, no recombination happens. Okay, but during meiosis, recombination process happens which creates variation. So due to meiosis, variation happens within the sexual reproduction. Okay, so due to recombination. Due to recombination, variation happens within the sexual reproduction. Whereas in the mitosis, the cells will be produced as it is. right? Whatever parent cell will have, the same things will be carried by the daughter cells. So it is an equational type of division. Okay. So mitosis do not create any variation, as it is parent cell will be converted into or divided into the daughter cells. So that is the thing in the asexual reproduction. Now we will see in the asexual reproduction there are many types. Okay, there are many types which we will learn. Okay. Chalo, then we will learn the types. So very first thing is what? Budding. You must have heard about the budding. Budding. Bud. Okay. So from the main parental body, suppose if I take the example of Hydra. Okay. Okay. So from the main parental body, wait 1 minute. From the main parental body, some bud will arise. Okay. Bud-like structure will arise, and this bud-like structure will continue to grow on. Okay. Now this bud-like structure will continue to grow on, and at particular time, this bud structure will be removed. And this later on, this bud structure will act as another individual. Okay, so this is called as budding. Budding is a process of asexual reproduction where small piece or small outgrowth will come from the main parental body. So to the main parental body, to the main parental body, small outgrowth is coming. Small outgrowth comes. And this outgrowth will grow in size. This outgrowth grows in size, and at one particular time it will fall off and act as a new individual. So this process is called as budding. Now you can observe here the product of the budding is unequal. Okay, one will be bigger, one will be smaller. So this is in the Hydra. Okay, you people know Hydra belongs to animals, right? In animals, phylum Coelenterata or Cnidaria. Okay, one other example is yeast for budding. Okay, so example of budding is yeast and Hydra. Okay, so this is all about the now next type of asexual reproduction is regeneration. Okay, now this thing you might have heard many times. Wait, regeneration. Now the name itself, see, basically you have to understand one thing. Half of the biology you will understand if you understand words. Okay, so you have to focus on words. Regeneration, that means again we are generating something. Now say for example, in animal kingdom, platyhelminthes, one organism is there named planaria. Okay. Now what planaria does? So planaria is like this organism. So if at all, if we cut it in any plane, okay, so it will regenerate again, regenerate. It will regrow its lost parts, its lost parts. Okay, so what is regeneration? Regeneration is a process by which the organism regrow its lost parts. Okay, that is called as regeneration. Okay, now, so in the whole animal kingdom, planaria, planaria is having highest regeneration power. Okay, now likewise, who else is having regeneration power? Hydra. Hydra also carries regeneration power. In animal kingdom, you will learn in the echinodermata, starfish. Starfish also is having regeneration power. Then in plants also they are having regeneration power, right? Then another thing, if we talk about humans, the hair follicles, then skin, right? So liver, these all organs are having regeneration power. Okay, so that is all about regeneration. Okay, so regeneration is that. Okay, the next thing is what people in the asexual reproduction, that is fragmentation. Now what do you mean by fragmentation? As I said to you, fragmentation is nothing but what? Fragmentation is, you have to focus on words. Fragment. Fragment means what? Fragment means piece. Fragment means piece. Okay. Now say for example, we have taken one organism. Okay. This is a Spirogyra, algae. Okay. Spirogyra. Spirogyra is an best example of what? Fragmentation. So now we have taken one organism. When this organism undergoes fragmentation, fragmentation means the process of making pieces. Okay. And this each piece, each fragment will act as an individual. Okay. So what happens in the fragmentation? An organism undergoes fragmentation process and produces fragments. And this each fragment will act as a new individual. Understood? What is the fragmentation? Fragmentation is a process where the organism will fragment themselves in the pieces and where fragmented portions will regenerate and act as a new organism. Okay, example I give you, Spirogyra. It is an algae, filamentous algae. Okay, Spirogyra. So you can see, you can also find this fragmentation process in the fungi. Okay, fungi में भी आपको मिलता है. Okay, then fungi, filamentous algae, just now I told, and the protonema of mosses. In plant kingdom we will learn. Okay, so protonema of mosses can also show this fragmentation process. Okay, so next type is what? Next type is very common, binary fusion. You must have learned. It is very common in bacteria. Binary fusion. Binary fission. Now when one cell divides into two equal daughter cells. Okay, so such kind of division is called as binary fission. Correct? You can see this in bacteria, then amoeba. Bacteria and amoeba produces equal daughter cells, right? So this process is called as binary fission. So basically, binary fission is nothing but division of parent cell into two daughter cells. That is called as binary fission. There is one more type called as multiple fission. In multiple fission, what happens is one cell divides and gives rise to multiple cells. Okay, so such kind of division is called as multiple fission, which you will observe in the plasmodium. Okay, so that's all. So we learned here many different types of the asexual reproduction. Okay, so one more example I will take here is that it is in plants, vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation. Now see, in vegetative propagation, the plant part, okay, plant part is used to give rise to next generation. Plant part is used to give rise to next generation. So that is called as vegetative propagation without the involvement of the male and female gamete. Okay, so that is called as vegetative propagation. Here you must have learned about stem propagation, root propagation, and then stem, root, leaf propagation. Okay, so these are all vegetative propagation. Okay, and this we will learn in more detail in the second year's chapter, that is reproduction in flowering plant. Okay, so that's why I'm not discussing here more. Okay, so that is all. So basically we learned in this asexual reproduction, we learned many different types. Okay, so we learned about first budding. Okay, now we learned first about budding. Then we learned budding means what? The small growth will come from the main parent body. That bud will grow in size, and after certain time, that bud will fall off, and that removed part will act as a new individual. In this, we took an example of Hydra and yeast. Okay, now. So budding, that is budding. Next one we told fragmentation. In the fragmentation, a main body will undergo fragmentation process. We will get fragments of the main parent body, and this fragmented pieces will regrow the lost part. Okay, and then these new individuals acts as a new progeny. Okay, now that is fragmentation. We learned fragmentation in fungi, filamentous algae like Spirogyra. Okay. Then we learned about the regeneration. Regeneration, I told you, there are two important examples. One is planaria, second one is hydra. Okay. So what happens in regeneration? The lost part will be regained. Okay. Lost part will be regrown. Okay. That process is known as regeneration. Plants are having highest regeneration because they will regrow throughout their lifespan. Okay. After that, we learned binary fission, where parent body divides equally to two daughter new cells. Okay. So such kind of division, binary fission, happens within bacteria for their growth purpose as well as reproduction purpose, as well as in amoeba. And then multiple fission, where one cell undergoes division and produces multiple copies of the cells. So this is called as multiple fission. We learned that example is plasmodium. Then we have learned vegetative propagation, where plant parts are playing important role for giving rise to next generation. That's all we have learned. Now see, these all things are the different types of asexual reproduction. Okay, fine. Now in the reproduction again, in the reproduction, sexual reproduction though we have already discussed. Sexual reproduction is nothing but the involvement of the gametes which creates the variation and performed by the meiosis process, gamete formation. Okay, now you see, we are saying reproduction also is also not whole and total characteristic of living organism. Why? What is the reason behind it? So now see, if we take in case of mule, so mule is a crossbreed between horse and a donkey. Horse and donkey. Okay. And this mule cannot give rise to next generation. Next generation. That means, is it a living or non-living? It is living only, but it is not giving rise to next generation. It is not able to reproduce. That means we cannot say that, okay, if any organism who is not having the capacity to give rise to next generation, it is non-living. So we cannot say that this property is totally belonging to the living organism. Say for example, in humans also, there are many infertile people are there, right? But they are also living. So we cannot say that, okay, reproduction is the whole total characteristic. So there are some exception for the reproduction also. That is why we are saying growth and reproduction are not the complete properties of living organism. Okay now, so that's all about the reproduction. Now we will take the next characteristic, and that is metabolism. And what I told you people, that metabolism is a very important characteristic of living organism, and it does not have any exception. Okay, it is without any exception. So it is an exclusive, the only, okay, any exception, the only characteristic of living organism. Now see people, what is metabolism? Okay, metabolism means, actually metabolism means the all reactions, okay, all chemical reactions happening within, chemical reactions happening within any living organism's body, any living organism's body is called as what people? It is called as metabolism. So we can also say set of all chemical reactions happening within any living organism's body is called as metabolism. Now logically also we know that chemical reaction can be of two types. One type of reaction will form the molecules, and one type of chemical reaction will break the molecules. So one will be forming reaction, one will be breaking reaction. So the forming molecule, synthesizing, formation means synthesis, right? So synthesis type of reactions are called as anabolism. Whereas breaking type of reactions are called as catabolism. Okay, so what we learned, metabolism is in turn consists of two types. And what are these two types? These two types are anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism is that type of reactions. Okay, anabolism are the set of reactions which are doing what? Synthesis of molecules. Okay, whereas catabolism are set of reactions which are involved in the breakage of molecules. Okay, so this whole total is nothing but the metabolism. So metabolism is an unique characteristic of living organism. Clear? Okay, so it is an without any exception. Okay, now see, say for example, if we are taking the reactions outside in vitro, just now I told you what is in vitro. In vitro means within, outside the body is called as in vitro. Now see, say for example, if we are taking a test tube and we are taking the say for example digestive soup of the stomach, and if we are allowing that reaction, that enzymes to digest the products within the test tube, so this experiment will be called as what? In vitro. Wait 1 minute. This is called as in vitro. In vitro means outside the body. Okay now, so can we call this as a living thing? No, it's not a living thing. Okay, reactions happening outside the body is not a living thing, but we can surely call it as a living reaction. Okay, so this can be surely called as living reaction. So metabolism can happen outside body also if we provide proper enzymes. Okay now, but it cannot be called as living, but the reaction can be called as living reaction. Understand that thing. Okay now, so as metabolism do not have, this is called as isolated metabolism, isolated metabolic reaction. Okay, so as metabolism do not have any exception, this becomes an exclusive property of an living organism. Clear, people? So now next property is cellular. 1 minute. Next property is cellular organization. Now this is very, very important. Cellular organization. So now say for example, we are taking a cell. Okay. We are saying the cell is performing some function. Okay. Now say for example, say for example, the cell is an heart cell. Okay. Now we are saying this is performing some function. So not only the cell is performing the contraction. Okay, we have to understand it. The constituent of the cells are performing the function. That means within cell, cytoplasm is there. Within the cell, nucleus is there. Within the cell, organelles are there. So that means when I say the cell is performing certain function, that means regulatedly, in a regulated manner, the organelles are performing function. And these organelles are contributing for the cell's function. Now, understand one more thing. When I say organelles are performing function, can only organelles are performing the function? No, the molecular basis of these organelles are together performing the function. That means molecular constituents of these organelles. Whatever molecular constituents are required for this organelles to form this molecular constituents combining together, they're combining together, they're interacting together, and then they are performing the function. You're understanding? So within one cell, this much hierarchy is there. Cellular organization is there. Now we have talked about one cell. Now if we talk about tissue, now when we say tissue is performing function. Now tissue is function because within the tissue multiple cells are there. Okay, this multiple cells are uniting together and interacting with each other and performing the function. Understood? Whenever we say organ is performing function, we have to understand that multiple tissues are interacting with each other and performing the function. So this is what, this is an organization, this is an hierarchy of an cell. Okay, you're understanding? So basically at the end, how I can write it? I can write it in this format. Okay, so molecular constituents combine to form organelles. Correct? Organelles combine to form cell. Cell combine to form tissue. Tissue combine to form organ. Organ combine to form organ system. Now see, when molecular constituents combine with each other and interact with each other, they will be responsible for the functioning of organ. Organelles will combine together and they will perform the function. Then we can say cell is performing the function. When cells in combination perform the function, we are saying tissue is performing the function. When multiple tissues combining together and interacting with each other and performing the function, we can say organ is performing the function. When an organ system, means other organs within the organ system, perform the function in an interactive manner, we are saying organ system is performing the function. So that means what? This is a cellular organization. So this cellular organization belongs to only whom? Belongs to only living organism. And that's why it is also an important characteristic of living organism. So it is a defining feature of a living organism, we can say. Now, one more very important property is what, people? One more very important property is to sense the environment. Okay, now living organism have the property to sense the environment, and that is called as response to stimuli. Response to stimuli. Stimuli means what? Any change in the physical environment. Okay, that is called as physical or chemical environment is called as stimuli. So whenever this kind of change is happening within surrounding of an organism, living organism, it will always show an response. And it is a very, very unique property of what? Unique property of an living organism. You can see in the nature, every living organism shows certain kind of response to the stimuli. That means it can sense the environment, and that's why this is also an unique characteristic of an living organism. Okay, now here in humans we can find out one more thing, that is called as self-consciousness. What do you mean by self-consciousness? Self-consciousness means, say for example, we know how to maintain ourselves. We are aware of the world also. See, lower organisms are having the awareness about their environment, but humans are having awareness about themselves. That's why this is called as self-consciousness. That means whenever we go outside for something, we are dressing up nicely. That means we are aware of ourselves also. We are not randomly going and sitting. We are aware of everything. That is called as self-consciousness. Okay, that is an additional property of humans. Okay, that is what we are saying. Okay, now one more thing is now branded patients. Branded patients. Now what happens in them? In hospitals, they will be supported by certain machines which will make them alive. Okay, but they will look alive, but they are actually branded, right? So are the such kind of people are living or non-living? That is a question. Okay, now so that's all. So today's class we will summarize today. See, what we have learned, we have learned the properties of all living organism. Okay, so in that we learned growth firstly, then we learned reproduction, then we learned metabolism, then we learned metabolism. After that we learned cell organization, cellular organization, and then we learned lastly response to stimuli. Response to stimuli. So in growth, we told that growth is nothing but the increase in size and mass of the size, mass, and number of the cell. Okay, that is growth. But growth is not whole total characteristic because some non-living things will also show extrinsic growth, whereas the living organism shows the intrinsic growth. Reproduction, we told there are two types, sexual and asexual reproduction. We learned many types of asexual reproduction, but finally we told that reproduction is also not an whole total characteristic because many living organisms do not show reproduction due to certain reasons. Okay. Then we learned metabolism. We learned metabolism is an exclusively exclusive property of a living organism because all living organisms perform the metabolism and non-living things will not perform metabolism. Metabolism, we learned two types, catabolism and anabolism. Catabolism is breaking down reaction and anabolism is synthesizing reaction. Cellular organization, we learned interaction between cell organelles gives us cellular function. Cells interaction which gives us tissue level function. Tissue interaction gives us organ level function. So cellular organization, cellular hierarchy is very, very basic to the living organism, right? Then we learned response to stimuli. So we learned in this that organisms are aware of their environment. Okay, they show certain kind of response to their environment, and that is called as response to stimuli. In that, additionally, we learned humans are self-aware. That means they are aware about their environment as well as themselves. So that's all about today, guys. I'll just open for doubt. If anybody is having any doubt, they can ask me.
Friends, please respond.
మేడం ఒకసారి స్టిములై గురించి చెప్పరా?
See, stimuli means what? Stimuli means any kind of change in the external environment. That is called as stimuli. Say for example, if we are talking about ourselves only, if outside some cold water, cold environment is there, so we feel shivering, right? We feel shivering. So that is externally our environment got changed and we showed a response that is nothing but shivering. So shivering is in the response to generate heat. Understood? So as we are living, we are showing response to external stimuli. So stimuli means change within the environment. Change, any physical chemical change occurring in the environment is called as stimuli. So for any stimuli, living organism shows an response. That is called as response to stimuli. Now say for example, a bench is there. You hit to the bench, bench will not react. There is no response to stimuli. But if you hit and if you show some reaction to living organism, they will definitely show and response to you, right? That is called as response to stimuli. Understood?
Yes, madam.
Anybody?
About others, Akila, Divya, Pranaya, Bhavishya, Gautami. Are you
And
listening to the
do
class?
people do one thing after finishing this classes, just read from the NCERT line to line. We have to go line to line, and if you get any doubt in any word, just let me know in the tomorrow's class. If you don't understand any line from NCERT, just let me know tomorrow.